Hey, bud. What's going on?
Well, I'm recording you.
I can see that. What for?
To make one of your movies.
Oh. Okay. Sure. Let me tell you what I'm doing.
Okay.
I am installing an air filter because dust collection is a pretty big challenge down in this tiny shop, right?
Yeah, I know.
You know what dust collection
Yeah,
is?
some stuff just got my eye.
Yeah. So we don't want the stuff to get in your eye. So we need to suck it up into filters and into the vacuums and stuff like that. We don't want it blowing around all over the house, right?
One quick question.
Okay.
What's that rigid thing behind you?
That's the air filter.
Oh.
That's what we're going to put up. And you know Daddy likes rigid, right?
Yeah.
I got a whole bunch of rigid stuff. So
like
I just
the
got
other
this
video that you made.
On Craigslist. It was only $40, which I think is pretty good. And this ought to clean the air in my little tiny shop. It sucks it in on one side, and then it blows out clean air on the other. Later, I asked my boy what he was doing at this point, and he told me that he was recording the clean air. Yep, that's my son.
Wow.
All right, so the plan is, I'm going to steal a camera from you, okay?
Okay.
All right, so the plan is I'm just going to put in a little box here, and I'm going to branch off an outlet off of this guy. And all my outlets for my shop are on their own circuit. Lights are on the other circuit. And this is behind GFCI. So I'm going to branch off another outlet here and put it up on the ceiling. And then I'm going to hang this upside down from some wooden brackets that I'm yet to make. So that's the plan. Let's get to it. I wasn't even really planning on filming this, but why not? I rummaged through the bin of electrical stuff and found some 14 gauge wire, an outlet, and the cover. I fished the wire over the ductwork all the way over to the new box that I just got done nailing in. Then, in the interest of keeping my current hairstyle, I turned off the breaker to the shop outlets. Now, all my tools use 20 amp outlets, and they sit on a 20 amp circuit of 14 gauge wire. Since I never use more than one tool at a time, I'm always well within acceptable ranges. But even if I paid a bunch of people to pose as my friends and threw a shop party where all the tools in my shop got used at once, I'd still be okay because everything is behind a GFCI. And if you don't know what GFCI stands for, it means Get Fisher's Shop's Channel Immediately. Then I finished wiring in the new outlet and got that all buttoned up. Now, in an effort to minimize the trolls, I verified that my table saw, which is the biggest motor in my shop, pulls 16 amps at its highest. And this new air filter peaks at a whopping 1.2 amps. So by tying these two outlets together, and even running them at the same time, I'm still in good shape. Turning the juice back on, and I quick test the outlet with a small corded sander. Works. Now that I know everything works, I went over it all and prettied things up. Next step was to make the brackets that will hold up the filter. I figured it would be easiest to mount the whole thing on a sheet of plywood. I looked at what I had and found one that was just about perfect in size. I just had to trim one of the sides down a bit. I center the filter on the plywood and then trace the four corners. Then I use this tool so that it will make the project look way more complicated than it really is. I trim down a piece of scrap on the table saw. And then chop it into 4 little bits over at the miter saw. These will be the bracket risers. I trace each one and then drill a couple holes. I'll use these holes later to put in reinforcement screws in from the other side. Then I just go around and glue them all on. Once dry, I can hold up the little plywood offcut that I made earlier and eyeball the top of the forward brackets. And I cut a couple of those out. And glue them on. Then by flipping the piece over, I find the holes I drilled before, countersink them, and drive in some screws to add some strength to the brackets. Now for the back brackets, I did something different. I first poked a couple holes through them and then countersunk them on both sides. Then I drilled a larger hole through each one over at the drill press. See, I have these old flathead screws from the Smithsonian era that don't have any threads at the top. This means that these small brackets will spin freely once the screw is in all the way. So then I line up where I want them on the riser, make a mark, drill a couple pilot holes, and then put them both in. Then I test it out for the first time. Next step is to get this thing on the ceiling. I hold it up exactly where I want it and make a mark where the joists are. Then with a square I can transfer those marks across. I drill the mounting holes through, flip the piece, countersink on the other side, and then I can fasten it to the ceiling. And since I'll be taking the filter down for periodic cleaning, I'll need to keep the cord accessible. And 9-foot ceilings make it just out of my reach, so I add on a little pull string. So the reason I chose to mount it there was so that the exhausted clean air will create a cyclone effect around my shop, pushing the dust into the filter without sending it back towards my furnace. Because if it gets in the furnace, then it blows out all over the house, and then shop buddy number 1 ends up getting more dust in his eyes. It runs pretty quiet, and so far it's proven to be quite effective. So, all in all, a pretty simple and easy fix to my dusty problem. Well, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Oh, nice. I can't even get the bit in there. I love these flathead screws. Let's try that again. Jeez. It's no wonder why people don't use these anymore.